A regional war in the Middle East has the potential to become a global catastrophe. If Israel and Iran go to war, it might not stay contained. With powerful allies, proxy networks, strategic choke points, and nuclear capabilities in play, this isn't just about two nations. This could be the spark that lights a global firestorm. And as world powers line up on both sides, the terrifying possibility emerges. Could this be the beginning of World War III? Tensions between Israel and Iran have simmered for decades, but in recent years, that tension has turned dangerously close to full-scale war. From covert assassinations and cyber attacks to open drone and missile strikes, both sides have escalated their actions. The fear now isn't just about open war, it's about what happens after the first missiles fly. Israel considers Iran's nuclear program an existential threat. Iran sees Israel as a symbol of Western dominance and injustice. These deep-rooted ideological and strategic conflicts mean that any conflict will not be easily resolved. And worse, both sides are prepared for large-scale operations that would immediately destabilize the region. What makes this situation even more dangerous is the potential for it to pull in not just neighbors, but superpowers. With US bases in the region, Russia's and China's increasing interest, and European energy security at stake, a limited war could rapidly evolve into a global confrontation. The first domino. An Israel-Iran war would not just involve the two nations. Iran's powerful network of proxies, including Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, the Houthis in Yemen, and Shiite militias in Iraq, would launch coordinated strikes against Israeli and possibly US targets. This would open multiple fronts across the Middle East. Israel would respond with full force, targeting Hezbollah strongholds, Iranian infrastructure in Syria, and missile sites across the region. Civilian casualties would be high. Chaos would erupt in Lebanon, Syria, and Gaza, overwhelming already fragile governments and infrastructures. Gulf nations like Saudi Arabia and the UAE, who quietly back Israel against Iran, might also be targeted, bringing them directly into the conflict. Oil exports would halt, and the Strait of Hormuz could be closed, immediately choking global energy supplies and sending shockwaves through global markets. Superpower involvement, the trigger for world war. The United States is Israel's most committed ally. If Iran strikes Israel's cities or US assets, America could be forced to intervene militarily. That alone could dramatically escalate the conflict. US bases in Qatar, Bahrain, Iraq, and elsewhere would become prime targets for Iranian retaliation. Russia, a strategic partner of Iran in Syria, would likely oppose US intervention and could provide Iran with military intelligence, weapons, or even personnel support. China, while traditionally neutral, might act to protect its oil routes and economic investments, pushing the crisis into new dimensions. What starts as a regional war could evolve into a clash between major powers. NATO allies might be dragged in to support the US, while Russia and possibly China could act to counterbalance American power in the region. The dominoes are lined up. It would only take one misstep to push them all. Nuclear shadow over the conflict. One of the most chilling aspects of a potential Israel-Iran war is the nuclear threat. Israel is widely believed to possess nuclear weapons, although it has never officially confirmed it. Iran, meanwhile, continues to enrich uranium and expand its nuclear capabilities, despite international sanctions. If Israel believes Iran is close to developing a nuclear weapon, it could launch a preemptive nuclear or large-scale conventional strike to eliminate the threat. This would not only kill thousands, but also destroy diplomatic relations globally. Iran could retaliate with chemical weapons or seek to accelerate its nuclear weapons program. The possibility of nuclear escalation would terrify global leaders. The use or even the threat of nuclear weapons could trigger international panic, massive evacuations, and global security mobilizations not seen since the Cold War. Global economic meltdown. The Middle East is still the beating heart of global oil supply. Any conflict involving Iran and Israel would disrupt oil exports and possibly shut down the Strait of Hormuz, through which 20% of the world's oil passes. That would send oil prices into the stratosphere. Europe, already grappling with energy crises post-Ukraine, would suffer deeply. Inflation would spike worldwide. Stock markets would crash. Supply chains disrupted by war would paralyze global industries. Developing nations dependent on energy imports would face economic collapse. In the event of wider conflicts, cyber attacks would likely target financial systems, infrastructure, and even healthcare services across the globe. Banks, power grids, and airports could be hit. The resulting chaos would rival or exceed the economic collapse seen during the 2008 financial crisis or the early COVID-19 pandemic. Alliances and fault lines. Who sides with whom? In a broader conflict, global alliances would be tested like never before. NATO would be forced to support the US in any major military campaign, especially if American bases or personnel are attacked. European nations, though hesitant, may have no choice but to join the fray. Russia and China, each with interests in opposing US dominance, may use the war to assert their influence. They could supply Iran with weapons, intelligence, or diplomatic cover in international bodies like the UN. Even a limited confrontation between US and Russian or Chinese forces would have devastating implications. Meanwhile, countries in the region would be forced to pick sides. Turkey, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and others would walk a fine line between neutrality and involvement. As more nations join, the chance of total global conflict rises exponentially. Diplomacy on life support. As the situation spirals, diplomatic efforts may falter. The UN, already weakened by geopolitical divisions, might be unable to mount a coordinated peacekeeping mission. Peace talks would be delayed by battlefield realities and hardened positions. Humanitarian organizations would be overwhelmed. Refugee crises would explode in size. Cities across the Middle East could face total destruction. This would be a test not just of political power, but of human resilience and the will to avoid annihilation. Even countries not directly involved militarily would face domestic unrest from protest, economic turmoil, and cyber attacks. The world order, built carefully after World War II, could begin to unravel before our eyes. The threat of an Israel-Iran war growing into World War III isn't science fiction. It's a very real possibility. The ingredients are all there: deep-rooted hatred, powerful militaries, global alliances, fragile economies, and weapons of mass destruction. In this dangerous game, even a small mistake could ignite a fire that spans continents. That's why leaders around the world must tread carefully, push for de-escalation, and recognize the stakes. Because if war breaks out, the question won't just be who wins. It will be, can anyone survive? Do you think the world is truly prepared for a conflict of this scale? Or are we already too close to the edge? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. If you found this video valuable, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful military analysis and global insight.